I'd like to start out by giving a 2024 update on our sponsors, our lineup of sponsors for the year. First, I'm happy to welcome back Voting Voices and David and Lynn Berelsman as our bronze sponsors. The Voting Voices team, which is Richard and Lori Wack, Charlie Williams, and Michelle Levy could not be here today, but we are so pleased to have Lynn and David Berelsman. And Lynn and David, I'd like to ask you to stand to be acknowledged. Thank you so much for your support. And it is also my pleasure to announce that Jennifer and Phil Anderson will be joining our ranks as a sponsor, as a visionary sponsor this year. And we are doing this in part to recognize the incredible gift they gave the League to kick off our first matching campaign around the holidays in 2023. So I am pleased to announce that we met the matching goal of $25,000 by Christmas. And a great big thanks to Jen and Phil. And Jen's recovering from surgery, so she can't be here, but we really just thank them for this incredible gift to allow us to not only make the match, but to thank and hug each of you, the 100+ donors who during the matching campaign gave and made this happen. So thank you, thank you, thank you. We have a very, very huge year ahead of us with the 2024 elections coming, and we have a lot on our list of priorities. At the top of the list, as always, is getting out the vote and engaging the Orange County community with the League as a nonpartisan on candidates. We volunteer to help ensure that everyone in our community has the opportunity to exercise their rights and to vote. And to carry out this work in 2024, we have a number of obstacles, and your support is more important than ever. With you, we can transform our world. If you are interested in becoming a donor and a sponsor in 2024, I would love to speak with you. And if you are not here, you can contact me at vp@lwvoc.org. We are going to move into introductions of elected officials, but before I do that, I wanted to make an announcement. On your table is a clipped card and list. I think everybody in the room knows that Bill Cowles will be retiring finally, unfortunately, at the end of this month, I believe. And as the Orange County Supervisor of Elections since 1989, he has been a true friend of the League. We ask that you please sign the card that's on the table. The Voter Services Committee will be going to his office when they throw a celebration for him in his office. And we will probably also be planning something later this spring. But we will start by the card signing, so please add your name to the cards. Thank you. Now we'll take time to acknowledge our elected officials and anyone who is running for office who's in the room with us today. So if you are an office holder or running for office, please go to the mic to the side there. Introduce yourselves by providing your name, your title, and your office. And we do ask that you do not give any speeches. We also ask that the audience hold your applause until everyone is done. Let's not be shy. I know there's more than 2 people here.
I think it is on, is that correct? I always end up first somehow. My name is Judge Allison Crestes, and I am a circuit judge here in the Ninth Circuit serving Orange and Osceola counties.
Don't clap. My name is Andrew Bain. I'm the state attorney for the Ninth Circuit. That's Orange and Osceola County.
Hi, I'm Sheila DeCiccio, Vice Mayor of Winter Park, and I'm running to be mayor of this beautiful city. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Happy New Year. I'm Carlos Guillermo Smith, a former state representative and now candidate for Florida Senate District 17.
Thank you. We have a lot of important information to go over today, and more than likely there will be more questions than we will have time in this room to get to. So to extend our discussion, we will be having hot topics overtime, and we hope you can join us for that. It will be held immediately following this program from 1:15 to 2 in the library in the Edith Bush Auditorium on the first floor. Rachel Allen from Peace and Justice Institute will be leading our discussion, so please join us. It is now my pleasure to introduce Sandy Vidal, who will introduce and moderate our topic today, Healthy Communities Equal Healthy Democracy. Sandy is the Vice President of Community Strategies and Initiatives for the Central Florida Foundation. And among the many initiatives she works on are sustainable development goals, poverty alleviation, social justice. Sandy is also the staff liaison for the 100 Women Strong Giving Circle. But most of us in the room know Sandy for the incredible work she does for the League and her leadership in the League. She is the former League of Women Voters of Orange County co-president who helped hold our course strong and steady during the pandemic and during the 2020 election cycle. So Sandy, if you would join me at the podium, I'd like you to tell us more about your work and today's topic. Please join me in welcoming our great Sandy Vidal as moderator.
Thank you, Lee, for the introduction. I also am the nominating chair for the League of Women Voters Board, so if you're interested, we have most of the board spots spoken for, but we are looking to add some co-presidents to the roster, so if you're ready to step up into a really big leadership role, talk to Tiffany or Gloria or any of the previous presidents about what that looks like. But we are in the search, so we would love to have you talk to us about that. So first of all, I just want to thank you for being here today for this really important topic. And I want to share a little bit about why me and why this topic. I'm very blessed to have the opportunity to moderate this panel with these really amazing panelists, and you'll have the opportunity to hear from each of them. I was really fortunate to grow up in a family where voting was a priority. My mom left the Baltic Republic of Latvia when she was 5 years old, when it was being occupied by the Germans. When she came here through basically indentured servitude for her family through Louisiana, Mississippi, Tennessee, and then eventually to Grand Rapids, Michigan, one of the things that she really learned and drilled home to us was that voting was a mandate. It wasn't an option. It was something that we had the privilege to do. And so I remember going to the polls when I was younger at what would become my high school and having the curtain drawn and the little levers pushed. Yeah, I'm that old. and really learning just about the process of voting and how important that is to democracy. I'm now, I guess, a super voter, so I vote in just about every election. I'll say just about because occasionally there's one. I moved during election time from Orlando to Winter Park, so I did not vote in that election, but I felt really guilty about it. And then as far as the health side of it, my dad was a doctor, and so I grew up in a space where there was really a focus on health. And my dad was a researcher, and he was a specialist in hypertension, high blood pressure, kidney diseases. But what he realized was medication's not the only answer for lowering your blood pressure. Your social engagement, your lifestyle, all of those things are just as important. And so we're going to learn about some of those things today. And the data on this really bears out well. Many studies have looked at the intersection between healthy communities and civic engagement. There was a 2019 meta-analysis, and for those of you who like data like me and Bahia over here, they were looking at all of the high-level information from there and looking at all of those correlations. Well, 122 studies found a positive correlation between community well-being and civic engagement. On the professional side, I've been working on a framework through the Central Florida Foundation called Thrive. And that's based on the 17 global goals. There's a definition on your little acronym sheet, because as we were in our group talking our panel language, Karen very generously responded to us to let us know that she had no idea what we were talking about. And so you do have a little acronym cheat sheet there. But the Sustainable Development Goals are 17 global goals known as the SDGs. And I fondly call them the 17 ways to solve world peace. They're things like no poverty, zero hunger, peace, justice, and social institutions. There's 17 of them, and what they have is targets that we need to look to achieve, and then indicators that let us know, are we actually going in the right direction? Gender equality is also one of those. That's a hot topic for us. My work has led me to map those goals to the social determinants of health and further define them into 5 categories that, while they're distinct, they overlap, they intersect. Our overall horizon goal for this framework is to create a healthy and thriving community. And to do that, we must have the following items: income for basic needs at minimum, stable housing, nutritious food, transportation access, good educational opportunities, social networks, healthcare homes or primary care, fresh air, recreation, arts and culture, a properly working system of justice, I would say voting goes in there, and a feeling of safety. To achieve these goals, we have to be actively involved in our community. Voting matters. Who represents us matters. In addition to voting, we must work together to solve our most complex social issues. And the Thrive framework focuses on 5 areas: economic stability, education, healthcare, community and social connections, and livability, which encompasses neighborhoods, physical environment, arts, culture, and public safety. The work requires partnerships, and so today you're going to have an opportunity to hear from people that we've partnered with who are doing good work in the community, both separately and collaboratively. They work on community health and civic engagement through their work. The reason I can't say collaboratively is because I had a whole email chain yesterday going about collaboratory, which is what used to be the Southwest Community Foundation down in Fort Myers, and so that's in my head. And typically these kind of panels would be really conversational. We may see some of that, but it's going to be a little bit more Q&A just because there's so much information to get out in a very little period of time. We also encourage your thoughts and questions, so if you have additional questions, come see us over at the library, and we encourage you to visit their websites, the Peace and Justice Institute table, Sophia and group over there, where you can learn about the Common Read and also the upcoming conference. and about the book that Bahia's just recently released. So I'm going to call each panelist up one by one, have them introduce themselves, and then we will dive into the questions. So we will start with Tracy Swanson from Healthy West Orange. There are very tall chairs over here.
Okay, step one accomplished. So thank you. First, I'm Tracy Swanson. I am the CEO for the Foundation for Healthier West Orange, focusing and working in the West Orange community to improve the health and well-being of West Orange residents. So creating the healthiest community in the nation is our very, very lofty goal. And we have a lot of work going on underneath that. So a little bit about me. I will say I'm a military kid, so spent most of my life. This is the first place I have lived longer than anywhere else in my life. So I'm coming up on 30 plus years, and don't do the math, but I was in many, many other places. And as a military born child, voting and freedom is so ingrained in my culture. And I have to say that West Orange, I've now been in that area now for almost, 35 years. It's the first time I have finally had the opportunity to feel that and benefit from all of the long-term residents in that community, and there's such a love for the community. So love this Central Florida area, and especially West Orange. The foundation is dedicated to creating the healthiest community in the nation. My 27 years at Disney prepared me, because I was focused there on improving the health and well-being of the workforces across the United States and even worldwide in many aspects. So, and then when I left Disney, I was very fortunate to work for a special health care district, West Orange Health Care District, with a group of 16 very passionate board members, residents, governor appointed, who set the path to invest over $245 million in brick and mortar and programs and services, and stand up the foundation. So.
Thank you, Tracy. I want to welcome Bahia Maroon from the Polis Institute.
All right, I'm going to do the chair.
The tablecloths make it tough.
It actually does, and I just got caught. So my name is Dr. Bahia Maroon. I am the Chief Executive Officer at Polis Institute. For those of you who are not familiar with Polis Institute's work, we are a research and engagement institute. We're located here in Central Florida. We work all over the United States. And our vision is an America in which every single one of our communities has equitable access to resources and to opportunities. And the way that Polis Institute helps to make that vision come true is to work alongside communities that are most affected by social inequality, and in partnership with stakeholders and government entities who are passionate about building the bridge to genuine equality in our country. So I do have to say, I only have 60 seconds left, but I am so proud to be able to be a voter today, and to know that I'm carrying on a tradition in my own family that actually started in the 1700s. And the very first vote on record for my family is a vote for yes to the American Revolution.
Very impressive. And next we're going to bring up Freddie Morello from NAMI.
I'm not as talented, so I'm going to sit down before I pick up the microphone. Thank you for having me. My name is Freddie Morello. I'm the Executive Director of the National Alliance on Mental Illness here in Greater Orlando. We are Central Florida's leading voice for free education, advocacy, and support services. We serve individuals in Seminole, Orange, and Osceola County. I'm glad to see we have some of our volunteers and supporters actually in this room, so thank you for being here. What NAMI does is our main mission is education. We get out into the community and educate individuals, organizations, law enforcement officers, politicians, you name it, on mental illness and how it affects individuals and how it affects the community. A little bit about myself. I am a born and raised New Yorker. I know we have a former New York Giant in the house over there. Let's go Giants. I started my career in mental health by chance. I was actually a New York City law enforcement officer prior to getting into mental health. And when I left the department, decided what's next and ended up in mental health. And since then, I've been blessed to spend 16, 17 years in the field, creating and developing mental health programs in 9 different countries, and now here in Central Florida as part of the National Alliance on Mental Illness. So looking forward to the conversation and being part of this awesome group. Thank you.
And I hate to say last but not least, she's definitely not least, Rachel Allen from the Peace and Justice Institute.
Hi, everybody. It's great to be here, and I feel like I'm in a relationship with all of these people sitting up here and have worked and partnered with them. I'm Rachel Allen. I'm the Executive Director of the Peace and Justice Institute, and I'm happy to see many of you here that have partnered and worked with us as well. So the Peace and Justice Institute formed at Valencia College 15 years ago among faculty and staff to imagine a community at the college that was peaceful and just. And over the years, the work expanded into the community. And PJI just left the college a little less than 1 year ago. And so now we are an independent nonprofit and a community asset. And I am so grateful for the support that we've received over this last year. And so the work of the Peace and Justice Institute is very personal to me. Really, I think it grew out of my own recovery. I'm 29 years sober, taught a class at the college called What's Love Got to Do with It? Because it's something I learned when I got sober, was how to be a loving woman. It's what I wanted. And then I realized students needed the same benefit of someone teaching them and helping them. And so the work grew as a faculty and staff initiative, and I've been fortunate to collaborate with so many of you in this room who have served and lifted up what we are trying to do, which is create a more welcoming, inclusive, just, and peaceful community. I'm grateful to be here with the staff of PJI down there. So we have just had so many amazing supporters and community leaders. You'll hear more about that today. So at PJI, we know that the change that we seek in our community is about us. It is about us. And each one of us jumping in with all of our gifts and strengths to help make the difference that we want to see in the community and our country. So I'm grateful to be here. Thanks.
Thank you. So as you can see, we have a great selection of people from our community to talk about all the great work that's going on. So Tracy, you mentioned that Healthy West Orange is trying to become the healthiest community in our nation. Your website states that Healthy West Orange is a grassroots movement to inspire Orange County to become the healthiest community in the nation. It also goes on to say that you provide tools and social connections to help residents eat well, stay active, and enjoy life. Can you tell us more about this goal, what you're doing to try to achieve it, and how does civic engagement come into the picture? Three. Okay.
So the foundation has 4 areas: healthy living, quality access to healthcare, healthy spaces, and community investments. So key to that work is the movement, which is Healthy West Orange, which empowers individuals to lead healthier lives through community engagement and education. And whether we are reaching them through social media, community challenges. There's Healthy West Orange t-shirts all over the West Orange community. And I think there's people on the east side of the county registering to get our t-shirts. So we need an East Coast partner to join us. And we have tabling at festivals. Our municipalities engaged with us immediately, and each one of them have issued proclamations stating that they are part of this movement to become the healthiest community in the nation. And they do that in many, many ways, bringing us to their special community events, putting our information on their websites, bringing their community events to us. So multiple types of ways that we're reaching individuals. The foundation is very fortunate to have its own building with income production from leases on the first floor, and the second floor we have community space that we're using to support nonprofits and all the social needs of the community, trying to bring collaborations there. And all of these partners, Bahia and PGI and NAMI's welcome. I'm well aware of the resources. I think you might have been given space in our downstairs hub, which I'll talk about later. So some of the big events, we're in the schools now. 11 schools are now doing Wesley's Mile. And this is us bringing walking and running and whatever pace these children can do, movement to the school, and rewarding them in fun ways and creating challenges with them. So we hope to be in 29 schools, I think, before 5 years. And so we're in year 2, I think, and so we're at 11. We are also providing water hydration programming alongside American Heart Association in our middle schools. And we have multiple efforts going on with maternal health as well as seniors. So we are looking at solving some of the biggest gaps in the areas right now.
Thank you. And Bahia, Polis Institute's mission is building social and economic opportunity for all. One of the pillars is connection or social capital. Can you share with us how health and connections are intertwined?
Sure. So I think most of us in this room can agree that we are facing an epidemic of disconnection in our country today. And that has profound effects on our mental health. It has profound effects on our physical health. Part of what we do at Polis Institute is we look beyond the symptoms to understand the core solutions, and we listen deeply to community members and members of vulnerable community groups to understand what truly works. And so historically, many of you in this room may know that when it came to solving socioeconomic issues, the approach was programs, the approach was a kind of, you're lacking something, we'll give you things that you need. What we discovered at Polis Institute in working in community is that communities want support in connecting with one another. They want support in being able to have family fun activities, right, that are often costly and ticketed. They want support in being able to have dinners together and being able to have leisure events. And this may sound like a very obvious solution, but in fact, institutes like Polis Institute that advocate for social connection as a #1 form of solving socioeconomic challenges face enormous obstacles in educating our policymakers, in educating our philanthropic partners, that social connection matters the most when we want to make genuine and significant differences. And what I would say to each of you in this room is that the social connection you're experiencing here today is a perfect example of the power of social capital to create significant change in our world.
Thank you. And Freddie, NAMI is focused on improving mental health and removing the stigma that surrounds it. One of the areas you've identified is the role of cultural competency in improving the health outcomes of people experiencing mental health and mental illness issues. How does that play into creating a healthier community?
Yeah, I think, when we're talking about cultural competency and specifically centered around mental health, I think the underlying thing that we have to think about is the simple fact that 1 in 4 adults are living with mental health challenges. So looking around this room, I counted, I think, 20 tables. So take 5 of those tables and just look around. Look at any of those tables. And chances are someone is either impacted by mental health, living with a mental health challenge themselves, or have been in contact with someone that is living with a mental health challenge. Now, if we take that a step further, often what we see is some of our communities, typically our Hispanic communities, our African American communities, mental health is looked at as taboo. And in our faith-based community, so one of the things that we do at NAMI is really try to preach the mission that mental health does not see black, it does not see white, it does not see orange. Mental health is for all of us. Some of the things that we're doing at NAMI, as I mentioned, our 3 pillars of support, education, and advocacy, is the advocacy really around getting the stigma around mental health pushed to the side. And one of the things that COVID has really done is really put mental health into the conversation. But in Sandy's opening, she mentioned a bunch of different things: housing, access to clean water, a couple different things. And if you really think about it from a large level, all of that is encompassed in mental health. If someone doesn't have stable housing, how is their mental health possibly going to be stable? If someone doesn't have 3 hot meals, how are they going to be able to, have the energy to function successfully? And, what we don't realize is that everyone is impacted by mental health. Some of us just handle it better. And to the doctor's point, one of the things that, some of the research shows is that individuals that are living with mental health challenges really need 3 things. They need good psychiatric care, good medical care, and most importantly is good community support. And that's where we come in. That's where we come in not only as voters, but as just community members, of not being afraid to engage with someone who has mental health challenges. Mental health is not, the people who you see on the streets that are talking to themselves, or, someone who commits a heinous crime. That's not mental health. There's, tons more to it. There's doctors, lawyers, politicians, famous actors, you name it, who are dealing with this and live very successful. And lastly, what the research shows is that individuals who have the right community support, as well as those 2 other aspects, it's not only possible for them to recover, but it's probable. And what then that does is that these individuals who were once a, quote, tax burden now become taxpayers because they're able to go back to work, they're able to get an education, et cetera.
Thank you. And as he's talking about mental health, I'm thinking about my ADHD and how it's really painful for me to stay still. So I keep getting told that I need to talk into the microphone, but I like to travel around with it, and they told me I can't do that either. So, so if I seem a little anxious, that's why. But Rachel, one of your major initiatives at PJI is creating a resilient community through the Resilience Network. This effort is a collective impact working with multiple sectors and over 600 community partners. How do you see the resilience community working collectively as a vehicle to improve community health?
Okay, so this is a big question. I have 3 minutes. But what I want to start with is that when our Pulse tragedy happened, one of the things that I learned is that the mayor of Orlando had the phone number of so many of those leaders who needed to be right there to help us heal. Imam Masri of the Muslim community and the spiritual leaders, and he called them from his cell phone. I mean, he was in relationship. And for any of us that were here in Central Florida at that time, we remember the feeling, right? We're just circling around the blocks to give blood. I mean, we were together in relationship. So what we know is that relationship is the healing balm of humanity, to know one another. And again, to come to these hot topics, I mean, I hate it when I have to miss, because seeing you, hugging you, connecting, finding our common ground is what makes my work meaningful and my life meaningful. So we know that building trust, building community will give us the capacity to do big collaboration and make big change together on these very complex social issues. We will only be able to do this together when we have each other's cell phones. And watch out if you give me yours, because I'll be calling you, trust me.
She will.
And I do. But the other thing is, we have these principles for how we treat each other. So I do want to take a little survey here and raise your hand if you know these, raise them high so we can see, have engaged with these and have worked with them. So let's hope that in a year from now that we get to more like 75% of the room raises their hand. Because what we know too is that this gives us the capacity to do that deep collaborative work, the principles for how we treat each other, and there are copies over there on the table. Because the Resilience Network comes together across 9 sectors. How are we going to solve for these concerns that we're talking about unless all of us come to the table? So a sector that fits everybody. Everybody has a role, and we're working to go upstream and prevent. It's what Freddie was talking about. What we know is childhood adversity through the Adverse Childhood Experiences Study tells us that children with adversity in childhood are more likely to have mental health issues, behavioral issues, and lifelong health issues. So the work is about prevention, going upstream, helping children and families, and creating those protective factors within our community that will help all the communities thrive. So the network currently has 600 individuals. It has over 300 groups represented. It is driven by community leaders. It's volunteer, and we're making a difference by educating in the schools, the police, the firefighters, the government, nonprofits, all across sectors, so that, again, we have common language, common practice, and a common pathway to move forward and achieve our goals toward a thriving, trauma-informed, resilient Central Florida.
And they always have great meetings at the building for Healthy West Orange. And Sophia is really the master of keeping us all together. I have the privilege of being part of that network, and you can too. Ask Rachel about it later. So Bahia, it's been said that 70% of your health is determined by your zip code and not your genetic code or your health plan. What can be done to improve health outcomes in our higher poverty zip codes?
Well, I thought that this was such an important question, and slightly reframed, which is to say, how do issues like poverty, housing, prejudice, and racism affect our health? But I actually have a 240-page answer to the question. So my book, Black Lives, American Love, tackles this issue at length. But what I want to offer to you in this room today, in the 2 minutes that I have left, is this: informed voting. Informed voting. And what does informed voting mean? It means 5 people coming together at a friend's house and talking about what are the solutions to housing that are on the ballot. What of these housing solutions are we going to be voting for? Who are we going to be telling these solutions are the right solutions to vote for? Informed voting is your tool. You may not live in an impoverished community, but as an informed voter who brings together everyone in your network and lets them know these are the local, state, and federal policies that will fully fund Head Start, that will fully fund Medicare and Medicaid. when you are sharing that information together, even in groups of 2 and 3, you are making a substantial difference in overcoming the disparities and outcomes we face in this country. And then the next thing I call all of you to do is to actively interrogate the degree to which you are willing and ready to profoundly respect the will and the wisdom of impoverished people in our country. When you are willing to profoundly interrogate how much you are willing to listen to the voices, the wisdom, and the will of impoverished Americans as we search for solutions together, you put us all on the pathway to reconciliation, to connection, and to solutions with genuine impact.
So Rachel, you recently commissioned a trip to Miami to look at a hub that's being created to help people with mental health and substance abuse issues get treatment rather than cycle in and out of the jail system. Why would a peace and justice nonprofit get involved in this type of work, and how can it translate to Central Florida?
Okay, so I can't help but respond to my dear friend here who gave that call to action, right? And I want to say that when we started PJI at the college, they were laughing at us. They laughed at my love class. And some might say that what Bahia just said is, you know, how would we ever do that? But you know what? We're doing it. And at PJI, we believe in the world of possibilities. And in fact, the common read is called healing. And it's not just healing our individual mental illness, but it's healing our society, facing our racialized history, facing all of it together, right? So that we can all be happy and healthy and thrive together. So we took a trip to Miami because at the conference in May of last year, we had a judge come, Judge Leifman, who showed us that out of 3 jails in Miami, he had shut down one of them, saving all that tax money, and he was offering the residents of Miami-Dade hope and recovery. He was seeing that they were stopping killing people, the police on the streets. They were no longer shooting people with mental illness and killing them dead, which could impact any one of us, right? In our families and our loved ones, and that they had this hope and this vision. So we went down there because when he talked about that in the room, everybody said, we gotta go to Miami. So we just went. Sandy was on the trip, Freddie was on the trip, and there were 20 of us. And we saw, we have a vision, and we're ready to come back now and do the work in Central Florida. But the reality is, so we love what Judge Leifman's doing, and we're gonna work on it, okay? And the state attorney was there, the public defenders were there, the homeless, the Harbor House, we were all there. But the reality is we've gotta go, again, upstream. Because what we know, what Freddie knows, is this mental illness, serious mental illness, which Dr. Insel, who hopefully will be our speaker via Zoom at the conference in April, please join us, that the mental illness manifests by 14 years old. Not like liver disease. Mental illness shows up early because it's childhood adversity. It's children struggling. And what we know is we punish those children in school. They act badly. They behaved badly. They're struggling. And so we punish them. We put them in their place. We expel. We push them out, right? And what we know is that we've got to bring them in. So at PJI, through the Resilience Network, we're doing the work of educating the educators, the schools, the leaders, the parents, the families to understand that child who's acting out isn't a bad child. That child is a child that needs well-regulated, buffering adults, us, to bring them in and help them succeed. So that's just a piece of the work that we're doing.
And then Tracy, you mentioned this earlier, but Healthy West Orange has focused on the social determinants of health and created a hub, that's with 2 Bs, where people can find services for basic needs and health care. How do the social determinants of health factor into a healthy community?
Okay, so first I have to warn you, if you do give Rachel or Sandy your number, they will call.
We will call you.
And it's okay, because these women speak my love language when it comes to measurement, results, and the mission. And Freddie, you're very welcome to join the squad that's focused in West Orange, so don't feel left out. But so the way we're doing that, measurement, my early career was CPA finance, so I'm confessing. But I switched and moved down a path of human resources and into health and well-being early in my career. So the majority of my time has been there. But one of the measures, or the measure, we are using to determine how well we are accomplishing becoming the healthiest community in the nation is the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation County Health Rankings and Roadmaps. And that's a mouthful. But how many here are familiar with those measures? So it's 38 measures, they're weighted, it's complex, but it is measuring the majority of counties across the United States. I'm using my hand. Sorry. I'll hold still.
I feel you.
So the tool provides a number of resources but information that highlight the health factors like education, employment, income, family, social support, this community safety, community connectiveness. All of those measures are there, quality of life and longevity of life. All these things are brought together, measured, weighted, and it's complex, but it's a solid measure that's been produced for years now. And we look at Orange County's results every year. COVID threw a little scud missile in, but we're back to where we have trends again and we can account for what happened during our COVID year. But that measure is critical. What we find is that you're hearing about a wealth of resources in this community. The problem is people don't know how to access or navigate to get to them. So Hub provides this easy access to social activities, educational programs, healthcare, mental health providers. All of these organizations here are represented on this platform. It's online and it's a physical resource center. It's available at no cost and serves this valuable resource for those seeking to focus on their well-being. It's important. Every day there are thousands of Central Floridians searching for services, and they can't get their hands on them. So we have expanded. We have a site at our building. We've expanded satellite now, but also there's this 24/7 access if you've got a phone. We do voice to help people that aren't comfortable with technology. We have iPads, they want somebody to assist them on site. Last year, Hub served more than 10,000 individuals in West Orange.
And if you're wondering if something like that is really needed, the Community Health Needs Assessment that was done recently in 2022 had a section where they tested out nonprofits within the community. They called them to see could they get a real life person. And in many cases, the answer was we get an answering machine. And in many more cases, they never got a call back. And so having a place where you can go and talk to a real live person is really important. And so I really commend you, Tracy, on the work that you're doing in West Orange. It's a great model for the rest of us. So Freddie, as we think about the title of this session, Healthy Communities, Healthy Democracy, what can we do as individuals and as the League of Women Voters to improve the overall health of our community?
Give me the hardest question, huh?
I did.
I want to take just 10 quick seconds and go back to something that Rachel just said a minute ago. Individuals are experiencing mental health as young as 14 years old. And actually, some of the newer research shows that number is actually cut in half. And individuals as young as 7 years of age are experiencing mental health challenges. But what's a fact that's typically not mentioned is that the research, and some of this is from Dr. Insel when he was leading NIMH, was that individuals by time they reach the age of 14 more than 50% of individuals have experienced some sort of mental health crisis. Now, it might not be major to the point where there's a diagnosis or hospitalization, but that highlights the importance of making sure that we have strong, stable communities, because if we're dealing with childhood mental health concerns, that's keeping the parents out of work, that's keeping the parents away from the polls, that's really, putting an extra strain on the system. And I think really the short answer to a big problem is really what the doctor said, is interrogating the community, right? I think we need to get out there and have the conversation of what is mental health? What does it entail? How can we support each other? One of the things that Dr. Insel actually and one of his colleagues, Dr. Ralph Aquila, that they talk about really strongly is that if we really want to impact mental health, we need to give individuals opportunities. Opportunities to get stable housing, opportunities to put 3 meals on their table, opportunities to get a stable education. And we do all these things, in simplest form by going to the ballot. It's not a Republican issue, it's not a Democrat issue, it's an American issue, and I know that sounds cliche, but it's an issue that we need to get out there and we need to speak to the community. We need to talk about what are the challenges involved with mental health, but what is the impact by actually treating it? Talk very quickly, in Michigan, they invested significantly in impacting mental health through a program called Clubhouse. And what they've seen is really 3 big things. They've seen lower incarceration, lower re-entry into the hospital, and 75% more community involvement. So it's really making sure that we're getting out there, having the conversation, with the chambers, with the politicians, just with the community, with business owners about mental health, to open up opportunities for individuals, families, providers, caregivers, you name it, to really impact the mental health conversation. Because again, you give someone a little bit of love, you give someone a little bit of support, they will succeed. And it's really, obviously there are those extreme cases as in anything, but just give people that hope to get out there and have that conversation.
Thank you. So just starting with Rachel, real quick, 1 minute. I can't believe we're already at the end of our time, but 1 minute, just, what? 1.5 minutes. Wow. We got you an extra little bit of time. So in 1.5 minutes, just share with us any last thoughts and things that our group today could take away with as next steps.
Well, I just want you to know there are many ways to engage. So join the Resilience Network. Participate, help out, share it with friends. Sophia Esidrum is our manager of that work. She's back on the table. I want to give a shout out to her because she's a phenomenal leader, and that work is making an impact. We're giving away about 25 copies of this book today. She has them over there at the table. So read the book, come to the conference April 11th and 12th, and hear the message. Hear from those of us who were down in Miami, learn more about that work that we're doing, and also learn more about restorative practices. We're going to focus in on how can we be more restorative and less punitive in our schools, in our families, and in our community. So that's what I would say. Get engaged, get a copy of the principles, bring them to your work, your home, your book club, your community. If you're having trouble with your HOA, bring these. Say, let's read these together and maybe we can practice them. They go a long way. Because dealing with community conflict, and sometimes people say, why peace and justice? Why are you doing this work? Because to build the culture of peace, we need a commitment to nonviolence, right? Remember Gandhi? We're celebrating King on Monday. We do need to practice nonviolence, and that starts in our hearts. It starts in our own bodies, how we think and talk about one another as citizens. And so practicing together, practicing nonviolence, we can build a culture of peace and a healthy community.
Thank you. Freddie.
I think really just to reiterate what I said a minute ago is have the conversation. Educate yourself on what is mental health. Again, not just, those who are on the streets, and you may see them speaking to themselves or looking disheveled. That can be me some days. That can be you some days. I don't have my coffee in the morning. I'm late to a meeting. So educate, yourself in the community on, what is on the ballot regarding, 988? What is on the ballot regarding access to mental health care, parity, you name it? And most importantly, again, have that conversation. I won't shout him out, but we have someone that's actually sitting in this room that prior to coming here stood in front of probably 50 law enforcement officers and talked about mental health, talked about a personal connection, talked about how they can interact with individuals. So have these conversations. If you're a business owner, NAMI's partnering with the Florida Chamber on a really big initiative to get out to all the businesses throughout all of Florida. Check us out on our website. We're starting a really big peer training initiative. Peers are really, the new secret sauce, as Judge Leafman put it, to, really help impact a true change in mental health. So, but again, it starts with having a conversation, getting out there. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to sound, unpolitically correct, or, just ask a question. You don't know unless you ask.
Great. Bahia.
Well, first, I invite all of you to come and support the work of Polis Institute. Going back to Freddie's comments, you can find out more about us at growopportunity.org, because that's what we do. We grow opportunity. And second, I really invite everyone in this room to focus in on the truth of what we know. And the League of Women Voters is here in existence because we as women, a vulnerable community, a community that has faced prejudice in the history of this country, a community that was at the end of the line for voting rights, right? We came together, we identified solutions together as women. And I encourage you to think about every single vulnerable community in America in the same way. We have assets, solutions, connectivity that are in the legacy and the tradition and the DNA of the community organizing work that we do. We have the solutions that we need. And so it's about looking to one another, looking to the legacy of vulnerable communities in our activism, and saying, how can we bring more of that into existence?
And Tracy.
Well, I'm going to start with a quote that I'm sure many of you have heard from Margaret Mead. Never underestimate the power of a small group of committed people to change the world. In fact, it is the only thing that ever has. And I share that because in our part of Orange County, we're small. And we started small, but we still have a small team. We have a board of 6, and my leadership team, myself and my staff are in the room here with me, my chief operating officer, my controller. But we don't let that stop us from moving forward because there's so much partnering and relationships and great services in the community. It's just a matter of how can we help bring some of that together to benefit the West Orange community. So I would encourage everybody, focus local. We get so blinded by the national narratives, and we lose sight that our neighbors, we can and are doing. Two parties are coming together and making decisions that are benefiting the community, and we don't discount one voice because somebody tells us at a national level you can't associate. It's like we got to hold together in our small communities and make the decisions that lift our communities and create the healthiest communities in the nation.
Thank you. I also want to give a shout out to Alyssa, who's my colleague at the Central Florida Foundation, who works very diligently on making sure that all of our grants are paid and all of the investments that go into our community happen. and also works very closely with a lot of nonprofits across the community. So I just want to end by saying, you've heard about books, you've heard about nonprofit websites, you've heard about other things, and I don't want you to think it's a commercial for that, although I do encourage you to go to the conference, read the books, and all of that. But really, to look at the fact that there are people across the community just like you, and the work that the League of Women Voters is doing, that are doing really good things. And so our goal is really, one, to inform and to let you know these are the great things that are going on in the community that you can get involved with, or you need to align with. One of the things I found doing a survey early on in the history of putting Thrive together was that we have a lot of groups doing similar things and not necessarily communicating together. And I'll give you an example. I was in 3 health and hunger groups. I still kind of am. Karen, who's here, led one of those. And just using Second Harvest as an example, Second Harvest might have people represented in each one of those 3 groups, but they may not be the same person. And so whether or not they're communicating internally is also important. And so making sure that we find ways to inform, to understand, to realize that there's at least 54 groups working on children's issues in our community. And that's just me asking that question for a little bit of time. To know that there's a lot of good work that's going on. So help connect those dots as well. Make sure that when you're involved with something that other people know about it and are connected through the work that you're doing as well. These guys are superstars in our community. They're all doing great work, and I encourage you to learn more about the work that's being done. And I also encourage you to look up other nonprofits through the Central Florida Foundation on nonprofit-search.org, which is a great resource. It's a database of over 400 nonprofits in our community. I believe we're going over to Q&A, which we may be a little bit late on, but if anybody has questions, you can go over and see Pat at the microphone, and we'll be happy to answer them.
Okay, it's working. Members, come on up and ask questions. I'm sure you all have some. No speeches, just questions.
I'll let you hold it. I'm Lisa Atkins with the League. My family got a lot of, because I'm a poor kid. I was a poor kid. And the information we received was through the school system, a very rural, small school system. And since there's so much division, it seems, private schools, public schools, how is this information being distributed so it's equally to all these families and students?
I think we can, so NAMI Greater Orlando has experienced some issues with that particular thing, especially recently. We do a lot of work in the schools with our Ending the Silence program, which is our suicide awareness campaign, really. So, we've started to take it out of the school system and really look at what are those other civic organizations, whether it's through Rotary clubs and their youth exchanges, through the different scouting programs, the Boys and Girls Clubs, but really looking at how can we, sometimes our system is very politicized. I mean, there's no other way around it. So how can we get into those silos of, youth, minority communities, et cetera? So, I think we're trying our best, and I know a lot of the other community organizations that we work with, MHA, and I'm sure Peace and Justice and a bunch of others are really looking at, alternatives to get the message out. Social media has been huge, but, really looking at ways that we can blitz the whole community, because sometimes in the schools it's a little difficult to get in there and give information.
So there are 2 modes that I think that question has to be answered in. And the first is the responsibility that every single one of us has as a citizen to be organized and aware about our school board members. To be organized well ahead of time, and going back to the informed voting, to be able to say to 5, 15, 20 of your friends, this is what this school board candidate stands for. This is what this school board candidate stands for. Because when we do not do that as citizens, we create the opportunity, the situation in which someone like me, a queer Black woman, as a child, has no access to my history, the history of this nation, no access to affirmation about the LGBTQ community, no access to mental health resources. And so we as citizens in every single community can be completely organized around ensuring that our school board members are actively upholding the rights of our children to be healthy, informed, and cared for. And the second piece, very quickly, is ensuring that you are all supporting, that we are all supporting community organizations that provide information like NAMI so that those children in private schools, in voucher choice, and so forth continue nonetheless to have access to information.
I do want to say that the Peace and Justice Institute has had the fortune of getting into the schools, and I was told a while ago, good job. That's not easy to do, so I want you to know that. So in Seminole County right now, we're delivering about 50 workshops this year, educating about childhood adversity, the impact on their brain development, behavior, to parents, teachers, guardians, and then student summits. And then we're in Orange County, too, at OCPS ACE, which is a community school, but the community school is really looking at it to expand. So we are doing the work of getting into the public schools. And the private schools show up at our Teachers Academy in the summer because they have more resources to pay for that. But we are working hard with the schools.
I'm Gloria Picard, League member. I really appreciate the fact that you all have concentrated on informed voting and also getting out the vote and the importance of speaking the truth and having factual data. I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm constantly challenged by having the data to speak on, having it readily available. I can't remember all the numbers. I can't remember the millions and the thousands and the percentages that I need to be able to speak to my friends and family about as I'm getting ready for this very important election year. And I want data that starts at the bottom, right here in our community, and goes all the way up the ballot, not down the ballot. I want to be able to go up the ballot. So my question to you all is, would you help us put together a list of talking points and the data to back it up that are most critical for us in this community and our state and our nation, so we are ready to prepare and inform voters? We do Vote 411, which tells everyone about the candidates in answer to questions that we put forth to them. But that is not enough. We have got to get ready to speak intelligently, forcefully about what's going on. And I'm even going to go so far as to say, I want a report card on every one of the people who are on the ballot. So will you help us do that? I'm willing to lead the charge to make that happen, Tiffany. And I need to know that I can get access to informed data and I can be ready for this whole group and the rest of us who are not here today, get ready to inform voters. I can't think of anything else that this league can do that would be more important than that. Will you help us? Okay. We've got your name and your number. You can count on it.
I've got all of their cell phone numbers, Gloria.
Thank you to all of our panelists today, and Gloria, for the challenge that you have left us with. We just recently put together a community landscape that looks at all of the, not all of the, but a lot of the challenges and opportunities in our community. And where there are challenges, there are definitely opportunities. And I think to what we've heard today, being informed and understanding the information is important, and communicating it is important too. So Thank you all for listening to us today. We'll be over, a few of us anyway, will be over at the library. So if you have questions or want to talk more, you're pointing to me. Let me know that, and I'll turn it over to our president, Tiffany.
All right, I'm going to sit down because that didn't work. Good afternoon, everyone. Before I kind of get into the nuts and bolts of the end of our discussion, I just actually wanted to say a thank you to everyone who's here today. We had quite a discussion about social capital and being and belonging and community and idea exchange and community growth that happens in this room and many rooms all across our county every single day, the conversations that you have in your homes, in your living rooms, at your schools. So thank you for being here as we continue to grow our communities. We really appreciate you. And then, of course, to our moderator, Sandy Vidal, and our panelists, Tracy Swanson, Dr. Bahia Maroon, Freddie Morello, and Rachel Allen for joining us today. Can we get a hand clap for them? And for the work that you all do to improve the health of our Central Florida community. And a special thank you to Sandy and Rachel, who were central in pulling together our program today. It has been a terrific and very, very important discussion. Now, if you know me, I'm going to take the energy up a little bit. In our calls to action, I am so very excited to announce that we are one step closer to getting reproductive freedom and abortion access on the ballot in November. Floridians Protecting Freedom, which is the campaign that's leading the ballot initiative, has officially reached our petition threshold with 20,000 extra petitions submitted. So go them, go us. We have certainly seen our freedom stripped away in the last few years, and it is time that we get those freedoms back. I encourage you all, as I will be watching, the Florida Supreme Court oral arguments on Wednesday, February 7th at 9 a.m. I know I will be glued to my computer screen, and I'll be sharing updates and information with you all. There's information on the table about how to get registered and to watch, so make sure you tune in to see how it all goes. But do know, although the petition half of this campaign is in, there is so much more work to be done. And this is just the beginning, so welcome to election season, everyone. In one way or another, it is all on the ballot this year. And I know we say that year after year after year because it feels like that year after year after year. But to the conversation today, healthy communities are on the ballot, and they matter. Education, an engaged electorate matters. Voters matter. Democracy matters. Who and what we vote for comes back home to improve or weaken the health of our communities and our democracy, which we're all here fighting for. So with the next 9 hot topics, we aim to highlight that this year it is all on the ballot. So we'll continue these discussions throughout the year. And my call to action is that you get involved and engaged. There will be opportunities to send text messages and postcards, design flyers, engage with our college students and young professional voters, creating new and invigorative ways to get our communities to the ballot box. So please find someone, look around the room, and find someone who looks like they are involved with our league and ask them how to get engaged. I certainly cannot wait to defend democracy alongside you. And please volunteer as a poll worker in the 2024 elections. If you are a bilingual speaker, we especially need you. Contact Mary Montanis. Mary, if you would please stand. She's in the back waving her hands. And I'm going to take a little nod from Dr. Maroon. Be an informed voter. right? Make sure that we're having events at our homes. We're talking to our friends. We're discussing the issues as we search for solutions to genuine impact together. So make sure you're having events at home. And in terms of the evaluation, we ask that you please provide feedback for today's event. We want to hear from you what you liked, what you didn't, what you want to change, how you love the food. We want to hear it all. See the QR code on the slide or handouts on the table. QR code is there. And then, of course, our thank yous. Thank you to our fabulous caterers, Cuisinaires, for the delicious lunch. Our terrific team from the Winter Park Event Center who hosts us here every single month. And finally, to Susan Windmiller, who is stepping down as our chair of Hot Topics to put her talents to work, energizing the vote in this election year. So I'm sure you'll be seeing a lot more of her. Actually, she's in the back. Thank you, thank you, thank you for your energy, for your vision, for your leadership over the past year. We will miss you, but you will be around.
Are you going to remind everyone to vote next week in the House District
35? Yes. Well, while we're here, House District 35's elections are coming, so make sure if you are living in House District 35, I know Susan lives in the district, make sure that you know who's on the ballot, that you are informed, that you are engaged, that you are getting out to your polling place, but we will talk about that some more. By next week. Well, election. Is there not early voting? Yeah, early voting started. So early voting is happening right now, but the last day will be next Tuesday. And then, of course, our topics overtime, an extended discussion immediately following our event right now, which is next door at the Winter Park Library, Edith Bush Theater, first floor, beginning at 1:15 until 2, moderated by Rachel Allen. And then, of course, our next Hot Topics, which will be honoring Black History Month with Lift Every Voice, the fight for African American history and culture, which will be Wednesday, February 14th, which is Valentine's Day. I like to say community love will take all of us. So let's be in the room, let's show love to our African American communities and our shared American experiences. And then to our last slide, Monday is MLK Day, Martin Luther King Jr. Day, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day. And we would love if you would march with us in the Eatonville MLK Day Parade, January 13th. At 1 p.m. 1 p.m. for lineup. Contact Virginia Meany for details, or Joan Irwin in the back. She is in teal and waving her hands. Joan will have details as well. Help us plan and also, if you are interested in helping us plan the upcoming year's program at the annual planning meeting, which will be January 27th at 9 a.m. at the Winter Park Community Center, go to lwvoc.org to register. I would love to see you. I would love to hear your ideas. How do we move forth in 2024 in the most positive and impactful way for our communities? And then last, but certainly not least, if you are not a member of the League of Women Voters of Orange County, please join us. And for everyone, please donate. Thank you for your contributions. Thank you for helping us meet our match. It will, like I said, allow us to send text messages and get involved, and get our students more engaged, and send mailers and make sure that we are getting our communities to the ballot box. We know that we have done such a wonderful job at registration, but we want to make sure that voters are activated, that they are turning out, that they are engaged, that they are talking to their friends and communities and getting themselves to their precincts and making their voice heard in the most informed and impactful way. So volunteer with us, tell a friend, bring a friend. And if there is no other announcements, thank you, and we are adjourned.